Good afternoon. I'd like to begin with an apology. In the Walrus Talks profile, there are several titles behind my name, because I do hold them as founder of the Delphi Group, the CEO of Lumos Energy, the Executive Director of Indigenous Clean Energy, and one even not listed as Chair of the Globe Series. But it's a reflection of my career also that I can't hold a full-time job. I've titled my remarks Cleantech, the Holy Trinity, or How I Found God as a Cleantech Exporter. I want to tell you how the term cleantech was coined. It was coined by my closest friend, Nicholas Parker, who went on to form the Cleantech Venture Network. I refer to him as the Count of Cleantech. You can tell him that. And the funny part, when he founded the term cleantech and he wanted to get the URL, he found it was owned by a dry cleaner in Ohio. He negotiated with a gentleman and bought it for $5,000, and whenever he is in Ohio, he gets a suit dry cleaned for free. Now, with Globe, with Delphi, and now in my major work with Indigenous clean energy across the country, we've been tracking cleantech for over 2-3 decades. And it's very telling to me that cleantech is now really at the center of a circular economy. The MacArthur Foundation, in a recent report on the circular economy, really focused on the three mantras of design out waste, keep products and materials in use, and regenerate natural systems. So let's remember to shine a spotlight on the overlooked carbon emissions. While 55% of GHGs come from energy, 45% come from products, production, and use. Now, the classic definition of an entrepreneur is to innovate discovery and take risks, realizing that business failure can be learned to realize opportunity. But let me ask what might be an inconvenient truth. Are we at the takeoff point? Can we actually channel Canadian cleantech business into a world-class global opportunity? The numbers look good, but we kind of have to be truthful and ask ourselves, are we really penetrating markets in a big way, both as Canadian companies and in fact as the cleantech sector globally, to really change the vectors that we are on? And more importantly, if not, how do we do that? So can we leverage this era of climate crisis, or I like to call it climate zombie apocalypse, which is way more cool for my kids, to dramatically accelerate cleantech diffusion and scaling up, especially in global markets? We know that's what we want to do. So, as we are gathered today as the Canadian Church of Cleantech, permit me to channel the big picture view of cleantech leaders I engage with in my roles, and put forward a collective dialogue of a holy trinity of ideas, ones that will give you also examples of Indigenous involvement in Canada. And I picked 3 things because for some of us, that's the most we can remember. So I'd like you to hold up your first 3 fingers, and I'm going to go through the 3 things. Hold up your first 3 fingers. Yeah, not the middle finger, sir. No, don't do that. And I'm going through them one by one. Number one. Good. It is way beyond time to break out of the straitjacket of clean tech procurement on the part of governments, including cities, and industry. We really are in an antiquated age of how we view how clean technology can advantage us. In fact, technology writ large, for infrastructure, industry, or for municipal services, or for other government services. The idea of focusing on performance, time, and price as a sole criteria, or in fact a narrow definition of those 3 criteria, really comprises in fact how we can move and how we can get first mover advantage. That's not just for Canada, it's global. And I do think the natural resource sector is a way to start. Let me give you an example. National Defence, not an organization known for innovation, has said, you know what, we're going to use clean power for our armed forces around the country, all our military bases from Cold Lake to Esquimalt to Halifax. And we're going to do that by securing it from Indigenous communities and partners. And you know what? We're going to take a step with that to attach value to innovation of technology for microgrids, for storage, for making sure the reliability and criterion that we need for power and the clean variety category of that power for greenhouse gases is achieved. And I really like that kind of innovation because it changes the procurement paradigm. So, number 2. By an order of magnitude, our biggest clean tech advantage in Canada is talent. Though look around the room and look at the average age here. We have an enormous pool of young and sometimes not so young innovators and entrepreneurs, including new immigrants, individuals who understand their birth markets. Apprenticeships, mentoring, new job mechanisms that unleash their intelligence and acumen is critical. So I ask myself, I mean, you ask me in the Indigenous clean energy sector, what do? We make sure we have programs that connect young Indigenous people like James Harper, a Cree man who's now doing his master's in Sweden in clean energy, and he's coming back to work directly in a clean tech company. So whether it's Indigenous or youth or men and women, we really have to look at that talent pool. If we invest in that talent pool, if we have an apprenticeship program at this event, if we have apprenticeship in your companies, if each of you are mentors to university and college students active in the clean tech sector, I believe that will be our biggest single source of enduring competitive advantage in marketplace, but we haven't hardwired that in the policies and practices in our businesses. And you know, I have a line, you all know what AI is, but I don't think intelligence is artificial. I think it's Indigenous or youth and men and women. And number 3. One of the hallmarks of going global is that we have an evident truth that supply chains have been material to that success. When you have customers, you build relationships and take that global, that helps you go global. Could it be one step further that we create a Canadian clean tech compact between sellers and buyers? We sell stuff to cities. Cities like Toronto or Vancouver are tied in with C40 or C80 groups that act on climate. Could we not work with those cities to help us take us into other cities globally? Are we doing that enough? We know each other here in Canada, but why are we strangers in global markets? That's an accord we'd like to take forward, a huge step forward at Globe 2020 in Vancouver next February. So 1, 2, 3, which reminds me of the classic line, Red Green, one of our country's rural comedians used to have, because we have to change. And he said, I'm a man, but I can change. If I have to, I guess. Thank you.